Today we're going to cover how to create checklists and use the checklist manager. When you log on to OFIRMS, as the fire chief, you'll see something like this with your dashboard. To create a checklist or to use a checklist, you first have to go to the checklist manager. You'll find the checklist manager under Admin under Checklist Manager. Once you click on that, it'll bring you to the checklist creation screen. You can see it says Checklist Manager here, and here are some other checklists I've already created. Now you can use this for truck checks, or you can use this for station duties. You can create whatever kind of checklist that you want. Once you go to New Checklist, you'll hit the plus sign, New Checklist, and it'll bring you up to just a very basic screen. The first thing you want to do is name your checklist. So if this is related to a specific engine or truck or ambulance, you want to name it as such. So we're going to create a tanker truck check. Now you can give this a specific name for a specific apparatus if you want. The next items are a single checkbox, a radio button with 2 options, a radio button with 3 options, a list, or text fields, or none. So we'll talk about each one of these just a little bit. A single checkbox gives you just that. You'll have just one checkbox that says something is either false or not false, and you can choose if it's a violation or if it's default. A violation means that something is wrong, and you could get a notification of that, where a default means something different. If you choose radio button with 2 options, this will allow you to fill in what the 2 options are, and again ask you if it's a violation or if it's default. If you automatically want something to come up that's default, you can type it into this box. For today's session, we're going to use a radio button with 3 options. 3 options give us 3 areas to enter in a response that we're looking for, or a button to click for those who are doing the truck checks. If we were doing a list, this would simply give us a list of things and let them choose from the list, which you could absolutely do with a truck check. So we're going to use radio button with 3 options. So I'm going to say the first one is present and working. The second one is going to be is present and not working. And the third one will be missing. If it's missing or it's broken, I definitely want to be notified of that, so I'm going to say it's a violation. If you click on this box that says comments mandatory on violation, then if they choose something that's a violation, whoever is doing the truck checks will be forced to put in a comment of what's happening. If you want them to be mandatory to put a photo in when there's a violation, you can absolutely do that. We really aren't using the attach violation, so we can talk about that a little later on. And then you can select the asset type, which would in this particular case be apparatus, which just means that that checklist will be available from the apparatus menu. We'll talk about other checklists later on down the road. Once you have this filled in, go ahead and hit save. What that's going to do is basically create the template for you to create a checklist. So as you can see, my tanker truck check is right here. And I created it today, 12/12/23. So I want to go ahead and click on this truck check. Now, just so you know, these 3 buttons over here, I can delete the checklist, I can edit it, which will be basically just editing the core stuff that we just entered. I can copy it so that I don't have to recreate the wheel, or I can activate and deactivate those checklists. So I just want to add things to the checklist, so I'm going to click on the blue underlined words that say tanker truck check. Once I do that, it's going to bring me to this screen. This screen is basically where I'm going to build the checklist from scratch. So I'm going to create a category first. And in my department, we go by cabinets. So cabinet 1 on the truck, and cabinet 1 is on the driver's side, closest to the cab. We're going to call this a category. Now, if I just wanted this to be a header or a footer or even something hidden for me, I can click one of these boxes and tell it to do that. But right now, I just want a category. So I'll save this, hit OK, and then you're going to see that category come up. Once the category comes up, which you can see here, cabinet 1, we have a few options over here. We can edit the category name, we can just get rid of it and delete it, or we can copy it if it's the same, or we can hide it, and we can activate or deactivate it, and it'll ask you for some confirmation there. Or we can simply add items to it, or we can collapse or uncollapse this setting. So let's add some items. So the first thing that I'm going to add, and again, these are my three default things it's going to say, is present and working, is present and not working, or it is completely missing, and these two are violations. So in my cabinet 1, we happen to have 50 foot length of 1 3/4 hose. And then, so we're going to call this that 50 foot length of 1 3/4 hose. Now, I can choose to change these if I want. If I want to say it's in service or in service with superficial tears, or out of service. I can choose to change these on each one of these. It's just the default options are what I created when I added the main checklist. Here I have two options. I can save and close this screen, or I can save and add more content. So I'm going to save and add more content. So it brings me right back to this screen, and let's say we have another section of 50 foot hose, but it is 2-inch. All right, and we're going to do the same thing. In service with superficial tears, or out of service. And then we can save and close. Now obviously we probably have more things in our cabinet than this, but I just want you to get a visual of what this looks like. So now we have a 50 foot length of 1 3/4 inch hose, and we can say it is in service, it's in service with some tears, or it's out of service. Same thing with our 50-inch, or excuse me, our 2-inch hose. We can say the exact same thing. Now I can add another category and say cabinet 2. Past cabinet 1. I know we don't have to get that specific, but you know how it goes. Here's cabinet 2. Now we're going to go ahead and add some things to cabinet 2. So let's say that we have a mallet. Okay, these are really probably pretty accurate for a mallet. it probably is not going to be not working, but we're just going to leave that there. We're going to save and add more. It's going to say, okay, we did that. Let's say we have a chainsaw here. Okay, so we could, if you wanted to, you can add something on here. Is present and working and fueled. Okay, this is very adaptive to you. We'll save and close this. So now we have 2 cabinets created. The name of this is Tanker Truck Check. So now that this is created, it's already saved. We don't have to do anything to save it. It's already active because there's a green check mark. So now what we have to do is we can go to My Fire Department. View. Now we're going to scroll down to Apparatus. Here is a water tanker. I'm going to click on the 3 dots to the left of water tanker, and I'm going to say engine check. If you have not created a checklist, you cannot go to engine check. From here, you're going to go to the checklist that we just created, the tanker truck check. I click on that, that automatically brings up the checklist for me, and now I can say, yes, we have some issues. Save. Once that is done, then the administrator should be able to see those checklists with that apparatus when they click on it. So we'll go back to this water tanker and click on the water tanker. Pay attention to the little spinny wheel up here because that means it's still loading. And then you'll be able to see on 12/12 of 2023 under engine check, tanker truck check was completed by Ben Lister, and there were 2 violations. We'll get more in depth, and we have some features to add to be able to give you more information, but you can click on this checklist and go through it, and it will show you the violations. And then again, if you said that there has to be comments, it'll require you to do so. So this is the conclusion of the creating checklist and the checklist manager. This is in the user manual. You can find the user manual on 5.4.6 of the Fire Department Manual under Checklist Management.